Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where the unbelievable becomes reality and the forgotten treasures of everyday life turn into legends. Today, we dive into the astonishing journey of a small copper coin that once passed through countless hands unnoticed, until it emerged as the most valuable 1-cent piece in all of history. Sit back, because this is the incredible tale of the 1973 D-penny that rewrote the rules of collecting, shook the financial world, and stunned even the most skeptical numismatists with its jaw-dropping value of $823 million. It all began in the unassuming town of Pueblo, Colorado. In the spring of 1973, a batch of standard Denver-minted 1-cent coins rolled off the presses and into circulation. Nothing about them was supposed to stand out. They were meant to serve their function and vanish into wallets, jars, and vending machines like countless others before them. But buried within that batch was a single coin unlike any other, a mistake and a masterpiece all in one, created by a momentary lapse in the rigid mechanisms of the US Mint. The man who would unknowingly come into possession of this tiny fortune was Harold Langston, a retired railroad engineer who had spent his entire life in the rhythmic grind of steel wheels and distant whistles. He lived a quiet, solitary existence, mostly off pensions and odd jobs, and frequented the local diner on 5th Street where he paid in exact change like clockwork every morning. One day in late May of that year, Harold received his change after a ham and egg breakfast, tucked it into his worn leather wallet, and thought nothing of it. The penny, among a handful of coins, sat dormant in Harold's pocket for weeks before being tossed into an old cigar box that served as his makeshift coin bank. Over time, the box filled with an array of change that chronicled decades of daily life. And for 40 years, that box remained untouched, hidden away beneath a false panel in a dusty closet while the world turned on. Fast forward to 2013. Harold had long since passed away, and his modest home was inherited by his niece, Margot, an art teacher from Santa Fe with no particular interest in coins or collectibles. She moved into the house with little fanfare, clearing the rooms gradually, donating what she could, and boxing up the rest. It wasn't until one rainy afternoon in October that she discovered the old cigar box tucked behind a stack of National Geographic magazines from the 1980s. Thinking it was junk, she nearly tossed it out, until she noticed the glint of old copper and silver catching the light. Curious, she dumped the contents onto the dining room table and began sorting them by size and color. Some coins looked unusual, but she had no frame of reference. She kept the shinier ones and decided to list a few rolls online just to see if they had any value. That's when she came across a forum post about rare Lincoln cents and, more importantly, about an obscure anomaly related to the 1973 D-penny that some collectors believed might exist but had never seen. Intrigued, Margot checked the dates on the coins in front of her. Dozens of 1980s and 1990s pennies, some as early as the 60s, and then, there it was. A single penny, dated 1973, with a tiny D below the date. The coin looked well circulated but somehow different. The color was deeper, the luster richer, and the strike on Lincoln's profile seemed unusually sharp. She almost dismissed it, thinking she was seeing things. But something about it made her pause. She took photos of the coin and uploaded them to the same collector forum. Within minutes, she received responses urging her not to sell it or clean it, and instead, to have it examined by a professional numismatist. One user messaged her privately, offering $2,000 on the spot. Alarmed but curious, she began to dig deeper. What she didn't yet know was that this coin had become the stuff of legend. Among serious coin collectors, there had long been whispered rumors of a misstrike from the Denver Mint in 1973, involving a unique alloy composition that had never been used before or since. The theory went that during one of the final production runs in early May, a rogue batch of experimental copper-nickel planchets intended for another denomination accidentally ended up in the 1-cent press. Only one coin was known to have made it through the system before the error was caught, and that coin had disappeared, until now, when Margot brought the coin to a regional appraisal event in Denver. It caused an immediate stir. Multiple experts verified that the coin was genuine, and more astonishingly, that it contained an unprecedented composition of 88% copper, 10% nickel, and trace elements of silver. Furthermore, it displayed an irregular die strike consistent with the experimental die that had been scrapped halfway through 1973 due to technical issues. The unique patina and microscopic tool marks sealed the verdict. This was the fabled missing specimen. Within days, word spread across numismatic circles. Collectors, historians, and even former mint employees began weighing in. The coin wasn't just rare, it was singular. A one-of-one artifact with a composition, strike, and provenance unlike any other. It was the equivalent of finding a first edition, handwritten Shakespeare manuscript inside a cereal box. Auction houses began courting Margot, and offers poured in from around the globe. One anonymous buyer from Dubai offered $75 million. A tech mogul from Silicon Valley raised it to $120 million, stating it would be a centerpiece of his private vault. But the story only got wilder from there. As the bidding frenzy escalated, the Smithsonian Institution stepped in with a formal statement acknowledging the historical significance of the coin, though it admitted it could not match private offers. Meanwhile, financial analysts began speculating on the coin as a commodity, suggesting it could function as a hedge asset, much like a painting or diamond. By the end of the month, the offers had soared past $500 million, and Margot, who had initially considered donating the coin to a local museum, found herself in the middle of a global bidding war. After months of closed-door negotiations, the final buyer was revealed to be a consortium of ultra-wealthy investors based in Switzerland, who believed the coin would appreciate even further in the coming decades. Their offer, $823 million in a mix of gold-backed assets, cash, and equity stakes. Margot accepted, and the deal went through in early 2014 under high-security conditions. The coin was transported in a custom-built titanium case with its own climate control system, escorted by a private security firm staffed by former military personnel. It now resides in an undisclosed vault beneath the Alps, occasionally shown to select guests under strict protocols. Meanwhile, the legend of the 1973 D penny grew even larger. Numismatic experts began publishing papers and holding symposiums dissecting every angle of the coin's design, its metallurgy, and its cultural impact. Universities added segments about it to their history and economics departments. Even schoolchildren across America learned about the penny that became worth more than some national treasuries. Margot used a portion of the proceeds to set up an educational foundation promoting historical preservation and funded scholarship programs in underfunded districts across New Mexico and Colorado. She still teaches art part-time and keeps a framed photo of the coin in her studio as a reminder of the ordinary miracle that changed her life. As for the coin itself, it remains the most valuable 1-cent piece in human history, a stunning testament to the unpredictable intersections of error, time, and fate. Collectors continue to search rolls of old change in the slim hope of finding something remotely similar, and every time someone drops a penny on the sidewalk, there's a flicker of wonder. Could this be the next legendary cent? In the end, the story of the 1973 D penny isn't just about money. It's about mystery, timing, and the hidden potential inside the most mundane corners of our lives. It's a story that reminds us that treasure doesn't always glitter, that sometimes it's dull, coppery, and resting silently in the back of a drawer, just waiting for the right eyes to notice, and that's where we leave it for now. If you've made it this far, remember, check your change. You never know when a simple penny might hold a fortune beyond imagination. Next 2007 D1 cent USA coin, where history, mystery, and the unimaginable come together through the lens of coins that have redefined the meaning of value. Today, we unravel the astonishing and scarcely believable journey of a 2007 D1 cent coin, yes, just a penny, whose story is so filled with secrets, twists, and explosive revelations, it ultimately found its way into the spotlight with a jaw-dropping value of $781 million. A penny that slipped through fingers, lived through storms, and was pursued by billionaires and secret societies alike. What began as just another coin minted in the bustling facilities of Denver turned into the most talked about object in numismatic lore, financial folklore, and hidden history. Let's dive into this unbelievable saga. It all started, innocently enough, in the spring of 2007, when the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of coins every week. Among the many pennies stamped and prepared for circulation was one that bore a minute and unnoticed anomaly. The press operator at the time, Ethan Maris, remembered nothing out of the ordinary. He followed protocol, supervised the machines, and saw copper-coated zinc discs transform into familiar 1-cent coins. That day, over 5 million coins passed his inspection. But in that river of production, one coin, the coin, slipped through unnoticed. What made this particular 2007 penny different was a mystery not even the mint itself could decipher later. The composition, upon later analysis, was almost impossible, not a standard copper-zinc blend, but a mysterious alloy that didn't register on metallurgical scans. Some claimed it was a lost formula once used in experimental coinage during the Cold War. Others whispered that it was a metallurgical accident involving rare earth elements. But at the time of its minting, no one knew anything was amiss. That coin, seemingly ordinary, was rolled with thousands of others and shipped out to banks and vendors across the southwestern United States. It was a toddler named Lily Carmichael who first received it, handed to her by a store clerk as change for her mother's purchase of a pack of chewing gum at a gas station near Taos, New Mexico. Lily, just 3 years old at the time, pocketed the coin and would later stash it in a ceramic piggy bank shaped like a dinosaur. Years passed. The coin slept beneath dozens of other ordinary pennies, nickels, and dimes. The Carmichael family moved, first to Nevada, then to a small town outside of Billings, Montana. In 2015, when Lily was 11, she rediscovered the coin while clearing out her old childhood items. At first, she noticed something strange, not visually, but in the weight. It felt slightly heavier than a normal penny. Her curiosity piqued. She brought it to her science teacher, Mr. Evan Grott, who had a modest coin collection of his own. Grott's initial impression was skeptical. But as he held the coin under his magnifying glass, he saw what he called ghost striations, microscopic ridges and irregular lines that shouldn't have been present. Even more surprising, the coin resisted magnets but registered an unusual magnetic field of its own. It was as though it had a memory. Unable to find any information online or in his books, Mr. Grott emailed high-resolution photos to a contact he had at the University of Chicago's numismatics department. Within a week, Lily's family was contacted not just by the university, but by 2 other mysterious institutions. One claimed to be from a private numismatic fund in Geneva. The other refused to identify itself and simply asked, "Is the coin still in your possession?" That question triggered a storm of events no one could have predicted. The coin was taken to Chicago for analysis under strict security. There, tests revealed not just a unique metallic composition, but evidence that the coin's molecular structure had been engineered, intentionally. Atomic patterns suggested a level of precision not known in US minting. The metal had no exact match on the periodic table. It was as if the coin had come from somewhere, or sometime else. As word of the analysis leaked, media attention followed. At first, it was just niche coin forums. But soon, the story was picked up by financial blogs, then major news networks. The value of the coin, initially speculated to be perhaps a few $1,000s due to its uniqueness, began climbing as collectors, billionaires, and institutions placed bids. An anonymous buyer from Qatar reportedly offered $27 million before ever seeing the coin in person, but it didn't stop there. In early 2016, a former employee of the Denver Mint named Alicia Dorsey came forward, claiming she had been part of a covert project in 2007 involving experimental metal compounds for anti-counterfeiting measures. She provided documentation that had been buried under classified labels and non-disclosure agreements. According to her, one of the test batches had gone missing during a temporary lockdown after a machine malfunction. She had always believed those test coins had been melted down, but now she feared at least one had escaped into circulation. Then came the involvement of the Orlan Society. A shadowy group with roots tracing back to post-WWII Europe. The Orlan Society was said to have interest in relics and artifacts imbued with what they termed dimensional anomalies. In plain English, they collected items believed to bend the known laws of physics. A representative from the society allegedly approached Lily's family through a third party and offered an untraceable sum of over $100 million for the coin, with one condition: they must never speak of it again. The Carmichaels refused. At this point, federal agencies became involved. The Department of the Treasury, the Secret Service, and even a representative from DARPA visited the university lab housing the coin. It was placed under high security, but even then, there were 3 attempted break-ins within the span of 2 weeks. The most serious involved a tunnel that had been dug from an adjacent university building, believed to have been started weeks before the coin had even arrived. By 2017, the coin was officially classified as a Level 3 numismatic anomaly by a newly formed division within the Smithsonian tasked with evaluating items of historical and scientific uncertainty. Public fascination exploded. Documentaries, podcasts, and books speculated endlessly. Some suggested the coin was forged in the future and somehow sent backward through time. Others believed it to be a message, a kind of currency-based code from an undisclosed scientific experiment. There were even claims from individuals who believed the coin could affect electronic devices, citing interference with drones and pacemakers during public exhibitions. Then came the auction. In October 2020, an unprecedented bidding war erupted at the private vaults of the Geneva Numismatic Exchange. Among the bidders were sovereign wealth funds, historical preservation groups, at least 3 tech billionaires, and several bidders whose identities remain unknown. The final bid that won the coin was placed through a satellite call routed through 7 proxy countries. The amount? $781 million, setting a world record for any single coin in recorded history. The buyer, who remains anonymous to this day, immediately removed the coin from public viewing. Its location is currently unknown. Some believe it now rests in a vault under the Swiss Alps. Others think it has been taken into orbit aboard a private satellite for reasons unknown. A few conspiracy theorists claim the coin is part of a deep space mission, its unique composition believed to unlock or interface with an ancient mechanism aboard an abandoned probe found on the far side of the moon. Regardless of where it lies now, the story of the 2007 D1 piece remains one of the most mysterious and lucrative episodes in monetary history. From an unnoticed minting anomaly to a $781 million marvel, this coin transcended its humble origins and became a symbol of how something so small can hold the key to secrets far beyond our imagination. But the tale doesn't end there. In 2023, a small group of amateur metal detectors in Utah uncovered another 2007 D penny embedded in what appeared to be volcanic glass, a geological impossibility. When tested, the coin had identical composition to the record-breaking specimen. It was quickly seized by federal agents, but not before photos were leaked online. Could it be that more of these dimensional coins exist? If so, where are they, and what was their original purpose? Rumors suggest that the Denver Mint was only one of several locations involved in what was internally referred to as Operation Helix, a long-defunct government project blending metallurgy, quantum research, and data encryption. If this is true, then the 2007 D penny might not be an anomaly. It might be the prototype for a hidden technological framework buried in everyday objects. So the next time you receive a penny in change, look twice. Feel its weight. Examine its edges. Because in a world where even a 1-cent coin can be worth nearly $1 billion, every moment and every object could carry within it an unseen universe. And that concludes today's deep dive into the unbelievable saga of the 2007 D 1-cent coin that rocked the world. From obscurity to global fascination, from the pockets of a toddler to the hands of secretive elites, This penny proved that value isn't always in the eye, it's sometimes buried deep within the matter of things. We'll be back with more stories just like this one. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your mind sharper, and maybe take a second look at your spare change. You never know what secrets it might hold. Last 2012 D1 cent USA coin, where the rarest coins meet the most unbelievable price tags, where history, mystery, and unimaginable fortune collide. If you've been with us before, you already know the depths we dive into to uncover the most astonishing tales in the world of currency. If you're new, buckle up, because what we're about to share today will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about pocket change. This isn't just another story about a penny. This is the story of the 2012 D1 cent coin that stunned the world when it was discovered to be worth a staggering $209 million. And as you'll see, its journey from ordinary to legendary is anything but simple. It all started in the dusty outskirts of Pueblo, Colorado, where a man named Joel Haskins ran a small second-hand shop just off the I-25. Joel was a quiet man, known in town for his love of history and his peculiar obsession with coins. His shop, Haskins Curios, was a haven for the overlooked and forgotten. Most days were spent alone, sorting through donated boxes, examining old trinkets and photo albums, and occasionally, coins. But it wasn't until a cloudy Tuesday morning in April 2023 that Joel's life, and the entire numismatic community, changed forever. The story begins with a cardboard showbox. It was part of a small estate donation from a recently deceased World War II veteran whose grandchildren didn't want to deal with the clutter. Joel, curious as always, opened the box expecting the usual: a few medals, maybe some war bonds, the occasional foreign coin. Instead, what he found was something infinitely more compelling. Nestled between two folded newspaper clippings was a Ziploc bag containing about 50 pennies, each in relatively good condition. One, however, stood out, not because of its shine, but because of a strange misalignment in the lettering on the reverse side. Joel was no stranger to errors, but this one was peculiar. The coin bore the 2012 D Mint mark, yet its coloration was subtly off, a richer, deeper bronze, almost resembling older pre-1982 cents made of 95% copper. Curious, he examined it more closely under a magnifying lamp and noticed something even more bizarre. The Lincoln Memorial design was missing. Instead, it bore an unlisted and unknown variant, a stylized eagle perched over an abstract rendering of the Rocky Mountains. There was no record of such a design in any mint documentation. Joel was stunned. It couldn't be real. He scoured online databases, reached out to a few contacts in the American Numismatic Association, and even tried using high-resolution imaging to confirm the details. Every test, every magnification, every forensic trick in the book pointed to the same thing: the coin was authentic. But what it depicted had never been approved, never minted officially, never even rumored. And that's when the calls began. The first came from a small collectors group in New Jersey offering Joel $25,000 for the coin. He politely declined. A week later, a private buyer from Dubai upped the offer to $750,000. Joel hesitated but still refused. By then, the whispers had already reached the ears of Dr. Alina Reyes, a renowned coin historian at the Smithsonian Institution. She requested to examine the coin personally and flew to Colorado within days. Dr. Reyes brought with her an arsenal of expertise, tools, and skepticism. She had seen dozens of fakes in her time, some so convincing they fooled entire panels of experts. But nothing prepared her for the 2012 D penny that Joel had found. Upon her examination, she discovered the coin wasn't just an error, it was a prototype. A deliberate design minted on a test strike planchette, most likely never intended for public circulation. The composition of the metal was unlike any cent coin of the 21st century. It had traces of rare earth elements, possibly meant to deter counterfeiting. But most alarming of all was the subtle inscription around the edge of the coin: Pax Montes, Latin for Peace of the Mountains. What followed was a flurry of investigation. The US Mint denied any knowledge of the coin. Requests under the Freedom of Information Act yielded heavily redacted documents. Coin experts from around the world weighed in, but none could explain how such a coin came to exist, let alone how it ended up in the showbox of a deceased veteran in Colorado. Theories abounded. Some believed it was a rogue engraver's personal project. Others thought it could be part of a cancelled series meant to commemorate state landmarks. But the most radical theory suggested something far deeper: a covert government program testing a new currency series backed by undisclosed materials, perhaps even precious metals infused into the alloy. The more mysterious the coin became, the higher its value climbed. By the fall of 2023, the coin had been featured in every major numismatic publication, analyzed by MIT metallurgists, and showcased in a private exhibition in Zurich under armed guard. Offers now exceeded $50 million, but Joel refused to sell. To him, the coin was more than money, it was a piece of history, and he wasn't ready to part with it. That was, until the night of November 3rd, when his shop was broken into. Nothing else was stolen. Not the rare books, not the antique watches, not the Civil War artifacts. Just the coin. Surveillance footage showed two masked individuals entering through a back window with precision and speed, clearly professionals. The footage went viral, prompting an FBI investigation. Joel was devastated, not just by the theft, but by what he felt was a betrayal of something sacred. He offered a $1 million reward for its return. Days turned to weeks, and hope faded. Then, out of nowhere, a package arrived at the Smithsonian Museum addressed to Dr. Reyes. Inside was the coin, along with a note that simply read, "Some things belong to history, not collectors." There were no fingerprints, no return address, no clues. The coin was intact, untouched, exactly as it had been. The museum, in collaboration with Joel, decided to put the coin on permanent display, encased in bulletproof glass with round-the-clock security. For months, lines wrapped around the block with people eager to catch a glimpse of what had become known as the Mountain Penny. But the story doesn't end there. In early 2024, an anonymous bidder from Singapore offered $209 million for the coin, an offer that stunned the world and broke every record previously held in the coin collecting universe. After days of deliberation, and at the urging of Dr. Reyes and a consortium of historians, Joel finally agreed. The coin was transferred to a private collection, but its legend only grew. The proceeds were donated largely to museums, educational grants, and historical preservation funds. Joel Haskins became a national figure almost overnight. Not for selling a penny, but for preserving a legacy. Interviews, documentaries, and even a Netflix series followed. But Joel remained humble, still operating Haskins Curios, still combing through boxes of forgotten things, still chasing the next mystery. And as for the 2012 D1-cent coin, its origins remain officially unexplained. Some still believe it was a mistake. Others think it was a secret project buried in bureaucracy. But those who've seen it, who felt the energy it radiates from behind its glass case, know better. They know it was meant to be found. Meant to remind us that sometimes, the most extraordinary treasures hide in the most ordinary places. And every now and then, history slips through the cracks in ways we never see coming. So the next time you get change at a gas station or find a penny on the ground, take a second look. You never know what stories it might hold or what history it might carry in its coppery skin. Because as this tale has shown us, sometimes the smallest coins carry the biggest secrets, and the biggest fortunes. Stick around, because there's always more to uncover, more legends to explore, and more hidden gems to discover in the world of currency. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your curiosity burning, and your pockets heavy with wonder.